The north had fallen silent. The Frost Queen's rule had brought not just winter, but stillness. Villages lay buried beneath snow, rivers frozen mid-flow, forests glittering in eternal frost. Yet in that quiet the whispers grew, whispers of rebellion, of a fire that would soon rise. In the heart of her frozen citadel, Frostspire, Lyra Vaylor sat upon her throne. The icy crown on her brow shimmered like living crystal, veins of blue light pulsing beneath the surface. Before her knelt the pale king, her ancient ally, her silent teacher. "They gather to the south," he rasped, voice breaking like ice on stone. "A host of flame and steel. They march beneath the banners of the dragon." Lyra's eyes flickered with blue fire. "Then they march to their death." The pale king hesitated. "Fire burns what frost cannot bind. Be wary, my queen." She rose from her throne, her footsteps echoing through the frozen hall. "Let them come. I am not what the north once was." Outside, the storm screamed in answer. Far to the south, beyond the frostmarked peaks, Prince Edric Dre watched his army move, a tide of men, machines, and flame. The sky above them glowed red with the breath of the alchemist's forges. They carried the embers of Vorin, relics said to be born from the last dragon's heart, fire that never died. Idric's voice carried through the cold. "We burn the north clean. Not one stone, not one ghost will remain." He looked up at the storm and smiled. "Let her frost meet my fire." The first battle came at dawn. The horizon turned gold as the southern armies reached the edge of the Frostvale plains. What they found waiting was not an army, but a blizzard. The snow moved like it had purpose. It rose, it twisted, it became a wall of white spears. When the first torch was raised, the ground itself screamed. Ice cracked open, and from beneath it rose the Frostbane riders, their mounts cloaked in mist, their eyes glowing blue. The clash was brutal. Fire met frost, sparks against shards of ice. The plains burned, then froze, then burned again. Every time the flames spread, the wind howled them out. Every time the frost advanced, Edric's fire drove it back. Above the chaos, Lyra descended from the storm like a specter. Her cloak billowed behind her, her eyes blazing like stars. With a wave of her hand, the blizzard sharpened into blades. Men turned to statues before they hit the ground. And then she saw him, Edric, standing in the center of the firestorm, untouched, his blade glowing red. "Your frost ends here," he shouted. Their eyes met, cold and flame colliding in silence. Lyra raised her arm, summoning the power of the Frostspire itself. The ground split, blue veins of energy surging upward. Edric thrust his sword into the earth and fire erupted skyward. When the two forces met, the sky itself tore open. The blast shattered the plains. Ice turned to steam, stone to ash. For a heartbeat, the world was light, blue and red intertwining like warring gods. When it cleared, silence. Edric lay on one knee, armor melted, face bloodied. His sword glowed faintly, barely alive. Across from him, Lyra stood trembling, her armor cracked, her crown shattered, her breath coming in frost and fire both. The pale king appeared behind her, his form flickering, unstable. "He carries the flame that unbinds the dead," he warned. "Strike now." Lyra lifted her sword, but something stopped her. The fire in Edric's eyes wasn't hatred. It was recognition. "You're not the monster they say," he said quietly. "You're what we made you." For the first time since her coronation, she hesitated. The storm weakened. The Frostbane riders paused. In that moment of mercy, he struck. The ember blade pierced her chest. Blue light exploded from the wound, the frost around them cracking like glass. The pale king roared, reaching for her, but the fire consumed his shadow. Lyra fell, her breath turning to mist. The ice beneath her began to melt, a single drop of water rolling down her fingers as she looked up at the storm she had ruled. But as the light faded, her voice whispered, barely audible, "The cold never dies." The frost spread from her body, creeping up Edric's arm, over his chest, into his veins. His scream echoed through the dead plains. The flame went out. And when the blizzard cleared, two figures stood frozen in the center of the battlefield, a king of fire and a queen of frost, locked forever in an embrace neither won nor lost. Years later, travelers spoke of a new legend. They said that when the north howled and the fires dimmed, you could still see them, two statues of ice and ember beneath the aurora sky. The world had changed, but their story remained, a warning and a prophecy, that when fire and frost meet again, the world itself will have to choose which one survives.